Beneath mountains and across roaring rivers, humanity has always reached for connection. Bridges are more than wood, rope, or stone. They are lifelines, carved by hands that refuse to be divided by nature's barriers. In hidden valleys and mist-draped cliffs, tribes have built pathways that defy gravity, weaving bonds of survival, faith, and resilience. Each span tells a story of rivers conquered, of generations united, of worlds held together by fragile threads. This is the legacy of bridge tribes, where landscape and human spirit entwine, and the art of crossing becomes the art of enduring. High in the cloud-wrapped hills of Meghalaya, where rain falls longer than anywhere else on Earth, a people have learned to shape living roots into bridges that endure for centuries. In this emerald land, the Khasi coax the aerial roots of ancient fig trees across rushing streams, guiding them slowly, patiently, until nature itself becomes a pathway. For generations, these bridges have been tended like family. While floods tear apart stone and wooden beams rot under the weight of endless monsoon, the living root bridges only grow stronger with time. They are not built in haste, but grown in rhythm with the forest, each strand woven by human hands and the quiet persistence of nature's will. The Khasi see beyond a single lifetime, for a bridge planted today may not be ready until the grandchildren of its maker walk across. This is the challenge and the triumph. A people facing a landscape of torrential rivers and shifting terrain where survival depends on outlasting the rains. The monsoon arrives with thunder and fury, rivers swelling to claim the land, but the bridges endure, anchored in the earth, breathing and bending with the storm. At the heart of this story is a profound bond between humans and their environment. The Khasi do not conquer the forest, they collaborate with it. The fig tree roots, once wild and untamed, are trained into strength, forming arches that seem almost otherworldly when glimpsed through the mist. Step onto one, and you walk not on timber or iron, but upon living veins of the earth itself. The climax of their craft is not a single bridge, but a landscape threaded with living pathways, some more than 100 feet long, some layered in twin spans, all alive, all growing. They stand as testaments to patience, resilience, and an ancient vision that measures progress, not in days or years, but in generations. In the rain-soaked valleys of Meghalaya, the Khasi bridges remain living monuments, proof that humanity and nature can weave together a future as enduring as the roots beneath their feet. High in the windswept Andes, where mountains cut the sky with jagged peaks, a bridge of grass sways above a roaring gorge. Here, the descendants of the Inca still weave lifelines across the void, binding together ancient memory with living tradition. The Kiswachaka Bridge is not built of stone or iron, but of ichu grass, braided and knotted into a span, strong enough to carry a community. For centuries, this crossing has defied the chasm below, where rivers carve deep wounds through the mountains. The Incas once built a network of such rope bridges stretching across their empire, linking valleys and high plateaus, uniting people scattered among impossible terrain. Roads of stone could not reach every corner, but these bridges did. Delicate, yet enduring. Fragile, yet essential. The conflict begins with time itself. Grass weathers quickly under sun, rain and wind, and every year the bridge must be remade. Left alone, it would fray and collapse into the abyss. Yet this challenge has become its strength. Renewal is ritual. Entire villages gather, men twisting thick cables from countless blades of grass, women preparing food and song to sustain them, children learning by watching, so the memory never fades. What begins as vulnerability becomes resilience, for in rebuilding, the people reaffirm who they are. The climax rises as the old bridge is cut away, falling into the gorge like the shedding of skin, and the new one is stretched across the void. With each rope pulled tight, with each knot secured, the bridge becomes more than a crossing. It becomes a celebration of endurance. By sunset, a golden arc of woven grass hangs between cliffs, trembling in the wind, alive with the voices of those who built it. The Creswachaka Bridge endures because it is never finished. It lives through cycles of destruction and rebirth, echoing the resilience of the Andes themselves. To walk across is to step into the heart of Inca heritage, where the strength of a people is bound not in stone, but in living hands, weaving the past and future together across the deep silence of the mountains. High above the shadowed valleys of the eastern Himalayas, where rivers carve steep ravines through the land, slender bridges of bamboo sway in the wind. Here, the Lisu people have long mastered the art of crossing emptiness with nothing but the strength of nature's simplest materials. Bamboo, cut from the forest and bound with skill, becomes their pathway, carrying life across deep chasms where no stone or timber could stand. For the Lisu, the mountains are both home and barrier. Villages cling to ridges, fields are carved into terraces, and every journey demands a descent into river gorges and a climb back to the sky. The rivers roar with seasonal floods, walls of water crashing against the cliffs, leaving the valleys impassable. The bridges are not luxuries, but necessities, spun from patience and ingenuity, delicate in appearance, yet resilient against time and storm. The conflict lies in fragility. Bamboo is light and living, but it is not eternal. Rain, sun, and wind weaken its body, forcing the Lisu to rebuild and renew. Each bridge is temporary, and yet its impermanence reflects the endurance of those who craft it. They lash poles together, weave ropes from vines, and stretch the span across dizzying drops, guided by memory, trust, and inherited skill. To step upon these bridges is to place faith in generations who came before, in hands that learn to turn vulnerability into strength. The climax emerges as one steps onto the narrow planks, the valley yawning below, the bamboo creaking in rhythm with the wind. The bridge sways yet holds, a testament to resilience. Suspended between mountain and river, it is both fragile and unbreakable, alive only because it is constantly renewed. The story of the Lisu bridges is not only about crossing land, but about uniting lives divided by the wild terrain. Each span is an offering to survival, a reminder that ingenuity thrives where the earth resists. In the high valleys of China and Myanmar, the bamboo bridges endure as living symbols of adaptation, connecting a people to one another and to the mountains they call home. Along the misty slopes of Yunnan, where mountains roll like waves beneath the clouds, a people have carved the earth into steps of green. The Hani have shaped their homeland with terraced fields that climb the hillsides, holding the rain and reflecting the sky, a living canvas of water and rice. Between these heights, where rivers cut narrow gorges, bamboo bridges link their scattered villages, delicate spans that bind the rhythms of mountain life. The Hani live in a land of abundance and hardship. Rain nourishes the terraces, but also swells the streams into torrents, splitting the valleys into isolated worlds. To tend their fields, to reach neighbors, to carry harvests from one ridge to another. They must cross the restless waters below. Stone cannot be carried so high, and wood rots swiftly in the endless rains. But bamboo grows thick and tall, supple yet strong. And in the hands of the Hani, it becomes a bridge, a lifeline woven from the forest itself. The struggle is constant. Bamboo fades with time, weakening under sun and storm, demanding care and renewal. Yet this very fragility mirrors the Hani way of life, where survival depends on balance, patience, and an unbroken cycle of tending. Just as terraces require repair with each season, the bridges must be rebuilt, ensuring that the work of ancestors continues in the hands of their children. The climax rises when the bridges, swaying above the streams, come alive with footsteps. Farmers carrying baskets of rice, families crossing at dawn, children chasing along the planks, all move as if upon threads stretched between earth and sky. The bamboo creaks, but does not fail, for it has been bound with knowledge older than memory. In these mountain villages, the Hani bridges are more than crossings. They are veins of connection, linking terraces to terraces, family to family, valley to valley. They stand as proof that human life can flow with the mountains, not against them, weaving strength from what the land freely gives. In Yunnan's mist-draped highlands, the Hani bridges remain living passages, carrying history and hope across the rivers of time. High in the Himalayas, where snow peaks pierce the heavens and valleys plunge into roaring rivers, narrow bridges cling to the mountainsides. Here, the Sherpa people have long carved a life in one of the world's most unforgiving landscapes, and their rope and wooden bridges are the threads that hold it together. Across icy torrents and dizzying chasms, these crossings form lifelines between villages, fields, and sacred paths. The Sherpa homeland is both sanctuary and challenge. Glaciers feed rivers that surge with unstoppable force, cutting deep gorges that no traveler can pass without daring the bridges. The mountains rise so steep that isolation would seem inevitable, yet the Sherpa have built ways to unite the heights. Wood planks lashed to ropes suspended between cliffs form trembling pathways where survival and faith meet in every step. The conflict is written in nature's fury. Avalanches thunder down slopes, winds howl across valleys, and floods sweep through the gorges. A wooden beam can splinter, a rope can fray, and the bridges must be rebuilt again and again. Yet this cycle of destruction and renewal is part of Sherpa life, just as climbing the peaks demands strength against exhaustion. The bridges are fragile, but so too is every attempt to live upon the roof of the world, and like the people themselves, they endure. The climax arrives when one sets foot upon the span, the abyss yawning below, the bridge swaying with every breath of wind. Prayer flags flutter along the ropes, their colors dancing against the white of the mountains, carrying whispered blessings into the sky. Step by step, the crossing becomes more than survival. It becomes a pilgrimage, a journey woven with courage and faith. In the Sherpa world, bridges are not simply crossings, but symbols of resilience. They bind together communities scattered across impossible terrain. They open paths to monasteries and markets, and they carry climbers toward the towering summits above. Suspended between earth and sky, they remain a testament to the Sherpa spirit, enduring, patient, and forever tied to the mountains that shape their destiny. High in the steep valleys of central Nepal, where cliffs rise like sheer walls of stone, the Gurung people climb toward a treasure hidden in the heights. Here, honey glistens in giant combs clinging to the rock face, guarded by swarms of wild bees. To reach it, the gurung fashion rope bridges and ladders of bamboo and vine, fragile threads stretched across the void, carrying hunters into a realm where earth and sky collide. The homeland of the gurung is a place of both beauty and peril. Forests cloak the lower slopes, but above them, the cliffs rise bare and unyielding, carved by rivers and wind. To live here is to live between abundance and danger. The honey of the cliffs is not ordinary, it is sacred and sustaining, a gift that draws men into battle with the very forces of nature. The bridges and ladders they build are temporary and precarious, but without them, the golden harvest would remain forever out of reach. The conflict is as old as the tradition itself. Bees defend their hives with furious swarms, cliffs crumble under shifting stone, and rope fibers fray in the ceaseless wind. Each climb is a gamble, a test of courage, where a single misstep means a fall into the abyss. The hunters, balanced upon swaying ladders and crossing rope spans that tremble in the air, carry only smoke to calm the bees and faith to steady their hands. Danger is never absent, but the ritual continues, for it binds them to ancestors who once braved the same heights. The climax comes as a hunter ascends, smoke rising in the wind, bees swirling in a living storm. Suspended between rock and air, he strikes the comb, its honey cascading in golden streams, caught in baskets lowered from above. The bridge quivers beneath him. The ladder creaks, yet the harvest is taken, and with it, the story of survival is renewed. For the gurung, these crossings are not merely tools, but lifelines to tradition. Each rope bridge and ladder is a passage into memory, linking past to present, courage to sustenance. In the heart of Nepal's cliffs, the honey hunters remind the world that even the most fragile paths can carry the weight of history. Far from the coasts of the lowlands, in the highlands of northern Luzon, mountains have been carved into stairways of earth and stone. Here, the Ifugao people built their world upon rice terraces that rise like green amphitheaters, catching the rain and holding the sun in mirrored pools. Between these terraces, wooden planks and bamboo crossings span streams and ravines, fragile paths binding together a landscape sculpted by centuries of labor. The homeland of the Ifugao is a land of challenge and resilience. Mountains rise steep and unyielding, rivers cut deep valleys, and typhoons sweep across the ridges with fierce winds and rains. In such a place, survival could have meant retreat, yet the Ifugao chose mastery. They carved terraces into the slopes, stone by stone, soil by soil, shaping the mountains into fields that would feed generations. The bridges, humble in form, became the hidden veins of this vast creation, allowing people to move between levels, villages, and harvests across the rugged land. The conflict is constant, for the terraces and crossings demand unending care. Floods can wash away embankments, storms can break bamboo and scatter wood into the torrents. Each season requires repair, each path must be rebuilt, and the bridges must be renewed so the terraces remain alive. Fragility, however, became the Ifugao's strength. Their patience and persistence turned impermanence into continuity, sustaining a culture that measured time not in years, but in harvest cycles. The climax is felt when one walks along these narrow crossings, the terraces unfolding in endless layers below and above. The wooden planks creak beneath the weight of baskets heavy with grain. The bamboo bends gently with the steps of farmers moving between flooded fields. The air is filled with the scent of earth and the rhythm of water flowing through channels cut long ago. Each crossing is a passage through history, each bridge a reminder that survival is not in grand monuments, but in the daily act of endurance. For the Ifugao, these bridges are not isolated structures, but living parts of their great agricultural masterpiece. They link terrace to terrace, village to village, past to future. In the mountains of Luzon, the Ifugao crossings endure as quiet companions to the rice terraces themselves, bearing the footprints of generations who turned stone and soil into one of humanity's lasting wonders. Deep within the misty jungles of Southeast Asia, where ridges rise above seas of green and rivers slice through hidden valleys, slender rope bridges sway between the hills. For the Karen people, whose villages rest high upon forested slopes, these fragile crossings are the lifelines that bind their scattered world together. Woven from bamboo, vines, and wood, they span torrents and ravines, connecting homes, fields, and kin across a wilderness that resists passage. The land of the Karen is as generous as it is demanding. The jungle provides timber, bamboo, and fertile soil. Yet it is also dense, steep, and cut with rivers that surge with monsoon rains. Paths vanish into tangled roots, and streams turn into walls of water. To survive here is to weave with the forest, to build not against nature, but through it. Rope bridges, swaying above the green abyss, embody this delicate alliance, carrying life across the silence of the valleys. The conflict lies in fragility. The jungle devours what it creates. Ropes fray under the weight of rain. Bamboo cracks beneath the press of time, and bridges must be replaced again and again. Each storm threatens to sever connections between villages, isolating families in the folds of the hills. Yet the Karen meet this challenge with persistence, for rebuilding is as old as their presence in the mountains. The bridges endure not because they are strong, but because their people are unyielding. The climax rises when one steps onto the rope span, the forest canopy stretching below like a living sea, the bridge trembling with each step. The air is heavy with mist and the calls of birds, the ropes creaking as if alive. In that moment, the bridge is no mere tool, but a thread of survival, linking past and present, mountain and man. For the Karen, these jungle bridges are more than crossings. They are the hidden arteries of a culture shaped by resilience, pathways that carry harvests, stories, and kinship across the untamed hills. In the forests of Thailand and Myanmar, the rope bridges of the Karen remain quiet symbols of endurance, swaying with the breath of the jungle, yet holding firm through the passage of generations. High in the forested mountains where Thailand meets Laos, rivers tumble through narrow gorges, fast and untamed. Here the Lahu people have long stretched living vines across the waters, binding them into bridges that sway with the rhythm of the jungle. These crossings, fragile yet enduring, are the threads that hold together villages scattered among the ridges, linking homes and fields across landscapes that would otherwise remain divided. The homeland of the Lahu is a place of contrasts. Slopes are steep, forests thick, and rivers fierce with seasonal rains. Life is carved from resilience. For every journey demands descent and climb. Every harvest must pass through streams that surge with sudden floods. In this land, permanence is elusive. Stones shift, rains erode, and timber rots in the wet air. Yet the vines, supple, abundant, and strong, provide the perfect answer, drawn straight from the forest itself. The conflict emerges in the fragility of the bridges. Vines dry, crack, and weaken. Floods sweep away what has been built. Storms lash the valley and force renewal. Each bridge is temporary, but in this cycle of decay and repair lies the essence of Lahu life. The people do not fight against the impermanence of their world. They move with it, trusting the forest to give again what it has taken. Renewal is not a burden, but a rhythm, a way of binding survival to nature's endless pulse. The climax comes when one steps onto a vine bridge, the water raging below, the forest rising in walls of green on either side. The vines creak and bend beneath each footstep, swaying with the wind and the current. To walk across is to feel suspended between strength and fragility, held aloft by the living tendrils of the mountain itself. Each crossing becomes a test of trust. In the vines, in the builders, in the timeless bond between people and forest. For the Lahu, these vine bridges are not simply tools, but lifelines of connection. They carry stories, harvests, and kinship across the torrents, uniting scattered lives in a land where the river divides. In the mountain forests of Thailand and Laos, the bridges endure as living symbols of resilience, proof that even the most fragile paths can carry generations forward. Deep in the rainforests of Borneo, where rivers swell and spill across the land in endless floods, slender bridges of bamboo rise above the waters. Here, the Dayak people have long built pathways through a world that shifts with every storm. Their bamboo bridges stretch across torrents and swamps, fragile arcs linking villages hidden within the vast green. To walk them is to cross not just a river, but the threshold between survival and isolation. The homeland of the Dayak is both generous and perilous. The forests teem with life, the rivers feed the soil, yet the floods come without mercy, submerging the ground and cutting off entire communities. In such a landscape, permanence is impossible. Roads vanish beneath water, and boats cannot always reach. Bamboo, abundant and light, offers the answer. In the hands of the Dayak, it becomes both bridge and lifeline, a structure born from the forest and returned to it when time demands. The conflict lies in the relentlessness of the floods. Bridges weaken under the weight of constant rain. Bamboo splits and decays, and the ceaseless waters tear at their foundations. Yet renewal is part of the rhythm of life. When a bridge falls, another rises. When a storm claims one path, another is built. Each crossing is less a monument than a testament, not to permanence, but to the will to endure. The strength of the Dayak lies not in resisting change, but in moving with it. The climax unfolds as one steps onto a bamboo span above a swollen river. The water roars below, brown and churning with debris, while the bridge sways in the humid air. Each footfall is a balance between fragility and trust, the crossing a reminder of the bond between people and the rainforest that cradles them. For those who build and use these bridges, every passage is a renewal of connection, a quiet defiance of the floods that would divide them. For the Dayak, bamboo bridges are not merely structures, but lifelines. They carry harvests, voices, and traditions across the waters, binding scattered villages into a living whole. In the flooded forests of Borneo, these bridges endure as symbols of adaptability, proof that in a world ruled by rivers, resilience is the truest path forward.